Good morning, students. Before we could begin with the day 2 presentation, let us have a recap of what we have learned before. The argumentative Indian, the three issues are what we have discussed. The first one, the tradition of dialogue that has remained in India since ancient time and is still relevant for our democracy. The second work, what we are going to deal in this presentation is, in spite of the traditions of dialogue remaining a male domain, India has witnessed great women debaters in all the fields. And the next is, people of all castes and classes have participated in dialogue. Now, the recap of the previous slides and the presentations are like, we have talked about who translated the Gita into English. We know that it is Christopher Isherwood, and we heard about Krishnan Menon, who was the leader of the Indian delegation to the UN, and his speech lasted 9 hours uninterrupted. We also got to know about the foreign commentators who endorse Krishna's moral positions, where C. I. Sherwood, T. S. Eliot, and Wilhelm von Humboldt were there. Can we achieve immortality through wealth? Is that what we are going to learn now? We have discussed about the topic of debate between Arjuna and Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna emphasizes doing one's duty and urges Arjuna to fight the battle irrespective of the consequences, while Arjuna focuses on avoiding bad consequences, even if this happen while doing one's duty to promote a just cause, which was fighting the battle. Now, here we could also see that Krishna's view, what it was, and we also get to know how he explains not farewell but fare forward voyagers. The emphasis here is on performing one's duty even if its results are bad. Then we could also see to that how he talks about the epic, the Mahabharata, while Krishna exalts performance of one's duty irrespective of its consequence. The concept of duty for just a cause is quite ambiguous. What is just for one could well be unjust for another. Then we can also see, on the other hand, he is talking about, if an action foresees benevolent result, it must certainly be good and just. So farewell should be better, he says, than for fare forward, particularly in the present day context. We can also look further the way he is explaining and telling about the importance of public debate and intellectual pluralism in the Indian tradition. He says that the public debate and intellectual pluralism in the Indian traditions, he says, they have shaped the character. Sen says that to the extent where we can see that school of thought which has in turn produced the most ancient civilization in the world, be it the epic Mahabharata, where the contrasting arguments of Krishna and Arjuna create the most exhaustive discourse in human history, or the highly intellectual battles of thoughts and concepts between numerous interlocutors in the spiritual, political, and religious realms. Each one of these are jewels in philosophical endeavor as well as in the practice of day-to-day human existence. We also got to understand that Sen has described argumentation as a prominent feature of Indian social life since ancient times. He describes that it has helped bringing out issues of great moral and practical value. He says that it has been closely related with democracy and how it has helped democracy succeed in India. Thus, Sen sees argument as a very positive value. We have looked at the examples of argumentative writing. Supporting statements with evidence was discussed in the previous slides, and we have also seen the features of this kind of writing. There were few statements from the textbook that was given to you which supports the evidence provided in the essay. We also talked about prolixity is not aligned to India. We further understand Krishnan Menon, who was the Indian Defence Minister from 1957 to 1962, how he led the Indian delegations to the United Nations, and on 23rd January 1957 delivered an unprecedented 9-hour speech defending India's stand on Kashmir. Now, further, we are going to discuss about caste, gender and voice. The arguments given in Mahabharata by Bharadwaja are some arguments against the prevalence of the caste system. These are like different colors indicates different castes, then all castes are mixed castes. We all seem to be affected by desires, anger, fear, sorrow, worry, hunger and labor. How do we cast differences then? The argument given in the Bhavishya Purana, since members of all the four castes are children of God, they all belong to the same caste. All human beings have the same father and the children of the same father cannot belong to different castes. These arguments prove the prevalence of the caste system to be quite baseless and give the message that it should be uprooted. Sen has quoted the examples from the text. He says women like Sarojini Naidu and Neeli Sen Gupta have had prominent roles in Indian politics. Gargi and Maitri took part in arguing combats in the remote past, distinctly underprivileged castes of Indian society fought against the superiority of Brahmins, Buddhism and Jainism that rose as a rebellious religious movement. Thus, argumentative tradition in India has frequently crossed the barriers of gender, caste, class and community. Maitri, the wife of Yagyavalkya, in one occasion, she questioned Yagyavalkya, does one attain moksha with his mental wealth? What shall I do with something that does not grant me moksha? I only crave your spiritual wisdom. Yagyavalkya Rishi was impressed by what his wife had said. He replied, Maitri, the husband is not loved because he is a husband. He is loved only because of the Atma. A wife, children, wealth, animals, relatives, deities, Vedas, heaven and happiness are all cherished only because of the Atma. Her question rises the very nature of man as a physical animal. Well, students, this is there in your textbook. Maitri's remark, what should I do with that by which I do not become immortal, is a rhetorical question. One cannot achieve immortality through wealth. It is well explained. It makes Maitri's remark makes it very clear that wealth is not the ultimate source of happiness. Amartya Sen totally favors this stand. He describes that income and achievements are two different things. We can buy commodities for wealth, but it cannot buy us the actual capabilities we can enjoy. Our economic wealth cannot totally make us live the way we like. There does lie a connection between wealth and our ability to achieve what we value, but in some conditions it may be absent too. According to Sen, wealth alone cannot be the basis of our freedom to live long and live well. So, we can see that he has given a clear description about the tradition in India that has frequently crossed the barriers of gender, caste, class and community. We can see here that the participation of women in political leadership and intellectual pursuits has been considerably in India. Many dominant political parties, both national and regional, are currently led by women, and has been in the past some of the most celebrated dialogues have been involved women. We should understand here, students, it is very important to see that Indian argumentative tradition has frequently crossed the barriers of gender, caste, class and community. There are many examples that have been cited by Sen to highlight this. He talks here giving the example of Sarojini Naidu and had prominent roles in Indian politics, talks about Gargi and Maitri who took part in arguing combats in the remote past, distinctly underprivileged castes of Indian society, how they fought against the superiority of Brahmins. Brahmins were considered the superior caste. Buddhism and Jainism rose as rebellious and religious movements. He talks about that Kabir, a weaver, Dadu, a cotton carder, Ravidas, a shoemaker, Sena, a barber led the movement against social barriers, Mirabai, Andal Dayabai, and they all were some of the prominent women who joined the movement. We can say that Sen want to tell you that you know argumentative tradition in India has frequently crossed the barriers of gender, caste, class, and community. We can also see here from the lesson how Gargi, realizing her mistake, sits down. Everyone was silent until Gargi stands up once more to ask two difficult questions. One of those questions was about Akshara Akshara Brahman. After hearing Yajnavalkya's answer, she proclaims him as the greatest Brahmanista. Sen says here that India has had a tradition of public reasoning and argumentative heterodoxy which is closely connected with democracy. Being using this tradition, India used what it has learned from the institutional experiences in Europe and America. Particularly, he is talking about the Great Britain. Thus, on the basis of both of this, he says India choose to be a democratic country. Then we can see that he says that though present India is torn in the issue of caste, creed and class, reservation has produced more irregularities than doing any good to the subalterns. Upliftment of the underprivileged has still remained a far cry. So similarly, he talks about and says that real talent never dies unrecognized, whatever adverse obstacle tried to block their path. In support of this argument, he refers to the sages, scholars, and rishis of the Mahabharata and historic India. He says most of them hailed from a humble and low or downtrodden category. They attained greatness, reached to the highest class by dint of their labor, finance, study, and a will to become great. So, so the history of our country shows that the use of argumentative encounters has frequently crossed the barriers of class and caste. Here we can see how Professor Sen is against oversimplification of India. India is big, India is great, India is a wonderful land. Nobody can define India and her innumerable variety and uniqueness. Talks about India is a country having a continuous cultural heritage of more than 5,000 years. He talks about India is a multicultural, multiracial, multilingual and multireligious country. You can see that he further explains by saying that India maintains radical visions on religion. As such, India did never suffer from any bloody crusade, although home of our four major world religions. India live in harmony and peace. He is mentioning and telling you the essay touches on the history of India, right from the dawn of human civilization to the present. It speaks about the Mahabharata and the Vedic age with its caste differentiation. It traces the origin and spread of Buddhism and Jainism among the oldest religion of the world. It moves on to the Bhakti movement in the Middle Age and finally discusses modern India and its socio-political features in doing so. The essay also defines India's identity, its character, its uniqueness, its age-old and yet evolving philosophy, and its message to all humanity. The essay thus tells you and reveals the very soul of India. He mentions here and talks about Indianness is a psychological, not physical. He mentions and talks about Jawaharlal Nehru's romantic notions of India as a land of unity amidst diversity is a true to the core of every Indian. We will be reading further in the next PPT presentation. Further, I will be discussing to you all about how a democratic Indian and we will also talk about will talk about the traditional dialogue that has remained in India. Once again, I'll recap about all this and I'll explain you what Sen wanted to talk about. We have about democracy, how that it has taken, a gift to the of the Western world, how India simply accepted when it became independent. The next slide will give you further explanation of all that. I think this should help you in understanding the chapter, The Argumentative Indian. Thank you.